Episode 177, Meat Boy, UFC Saudi, the Saudi shakeup. I feel like this card has low-key been cursed, and there's been a lot of changes throughout, including the meat event, which now features our boy Ikram Lokram, Ikram Alaskarov. So he was supposed to fight last week on UFC Trash, and before we break down UFC Saudi, what were your thoughts on UFC Trash last week? I mean, second straight Meatlock L. Dumpster Silva de Andrade went out there, laid an absolute egg, got absolutely smoked. So two straight Meatlock L's. Apparently this 100th Meatlock is the elusive 100th. So what were your thoughts on the Meatlock L of last week?
Yeah, truly unfortunate. Last week's Meatlock, dude's a bum. On to the next. This next one is definitely not a bum.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's been two straight, and we like to think that the 100th Meatlock is available in this. So got to move forward from the dumpster fire of the Silva de Andrade L Meatlock. But nonetheless, you had a nice call, Brady Heastand. We only broke down 5 last week. There only ended up being 4 fights because, again, the Ikram fight got moved to this weekend. So we ended up being just 4 breakdowns. But Brady Heastand, nice finish over Garrett Armfield. You kind of called that one. You anticipated him getting back on his horse, so to speak. So what were your thoughts on Brady Heastand's performance over Armfield?
Yeah, no, Brady looked great. Happy to see him. It seems like that UFC, kind of nervous bug is kind of out of him. Great submission, great way to finish it, and really displayed, he's leveling up, he's getting stronger mentally, physically, all that good stuff. So, happy to see it. Pumped to see where he goes, and honestly, would love to see him fight Turkio for that rematch because I think he would smoke him in the rematch.
Yeah, that could be fun. And Garrett Armfield's no joke. Like, he's got nice hands and is a pretty well-rounded fighter. That fight was back and forth. I mean, Armfield dropped Brady at one point. Brady looked like he was a couple punches away from going out, and really a pretty sweet fight and a gritty performance from Brady Heastand. So great win from him. Great call by you. Ikram again got moved to this week, and then we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the meat event. Tatsuro Taira absolutely smoked Alex Perez start to finish. I was particularly impressed with the stand-up advancements that his game has obviously added, because normally we see him just as this dominant grappler, but he didn't really even grapple with Perez too much, and to me was out there trying to make a statement on the feet, and for me he definitely did. So he got that second round TKO knee explosion victory. Gnarly stuff, gnarly injury for Perez. What were your thoughts on Tyra, and if he's a future champ, is it this year, is it next year? I mean, who's going to beat this kid?
Yeah, Tyra's no joke, and yeah, maybe could be this year, but it almost seems inevitable to be next year if it doesn't get the opportunity this year. Um, Man, kid is so good. He's leveling up. He's kind of, he's great all around. And talk about a TKO. It's not a TKO you would ever expect, nor have I ever seen, to be honest. If there has ever had one, throw in the comments and let us know when it did, but I don't think it has. But yeah, what a beautiful display of, grappling and takedown, from the top and then just snapping his knee. That was just a beautiful thing.
Pretty brutal for sure, and I'm curious to see who can beat this guy, because I think he probably takes out Urseg. I think he could probably take out Roy Val, maybe even the champ. We'll see. Perhaps we'll have to pump the brakes on him a little bit, but he essentially cut the line, and he really went through Perez pretty easily, which isn't something that most guys do against Alex Perez. So great stuff from Tyler for sure. He was happy. Thank you. You ready to switch over to UFC Saudi?
Yeah, let's switch it over to the meat lock. This one we got to bounce back, boys. So this one is pretty much guaranteed.
Move us through, pretty much guaranteed. It would be the third straight L if not, but we got to throw our faith in the boy Johnny Walker. I mean, at pick'em value against Volkan No Time Oezdemir, I think that this is juicy beef for the taking, and Johnny Walker hasn't been great lately, right? He did just get slept by Magomed in the second round of their fight back in January, and then the fight before that, it was basically over before it even began, but it was a nice little win streak for Johnny Walker before running into Magomed, and we tend to think that Magomed is top 3 in the division and is probably a future champ. So if those are your only recent blemishes, and he was picking up that nice decision over Anthony Smith, kind of a snoozer but dominant nonetheless, and then the finish over Paul Craig, the finish over your boy Iwan Kutelaba, Johnny Walker seemingly turned a corner, and while he might not be the next champ, we think he still should be better than Oezdemir. Yes, did look great against Bumdog in his most recent fight, and that is Johnny Walker's teammate, so kind of a cool revenge story there. But Volkan No Time Uzdemir is a dude who has a lot of losses. He's a dude who likes to get finished, and we think an angry Johnny Walker in front of a hyped up Saudi crowd could be the recipe for a victory and maybe a celebratory worm afterwards. So, how do you think Johnny Walker gets this one done? Why are you bullish on it as a meat lock? And is it going to be early or often?
Yeah, I think it will be early and often. I like that Johnny's a little bit younger. Also, hasn't been in the UFC as long, so he's got more to prove. Volkan's kind of, he's an absolute seasoned veteran. He's a big levels test for Johnny, but I think Johnny's just going to be more power, and if he touches Volkan, it's lights out. Johnny's got a lot to prove, a lot to come back from, and this is a great opportunity. And I do like the odds.
It really is a great opportunity. The odds, you can't ask for much more. And third from the top on this stacked card, I mean, they're giving Johnny Walker a nice placement and a great opportunity to seize on the moment for sure. And you touched on the size and the age, right? No Time is about to be 35 years old. He's 6'2" with that 75-inch reach. And we know Johnny Walker has just turned 32. The dude is massive, right? He's 6'6", has the 83-inch reach advantage. So as long as he can control the distance, I think that he's going to be able to get a finish over Uzdemir. I think it could be early, like you said. And Tapology is awfully bullish as well. Meat Boy 69% is rolling with Johnny Walker. 31% is rolling with No Time, and it's basically brown on both sides. So, do you think Johnny Walker gets the KO finish? And if so, is it first round, second round, or any chance this fight goes longer than some might anticipate?
I'd be mind blown if it goes past the first round. I mean, Johnny Walker has 21 wins, 16 by KO, 3 submission, 2 decision. So it's definitely not going to decision. Maybe a random submission. That'd be kind of sick, but I think KO is most probable.
Yeah, I mean, that submission he picked up over E1 was a little bit of a shocker to some, and to that first round finish point, I mean, Johnny Walker we know is a dude who is the most dangerous in those early moments, and of his 3 most recent finishes, they were all in the first round. So I don't blame you for rolling first round finish for Johnny Walker. I'm going to say that somehow No Time survives the first round, and then I like Johnny to get a second round finish, but nonetheless, easy meat lock nonetheless should get us the elusive 100th that we've been trying to get for now 3 weeks. So we're going to be keeping it simple, throw down an easy 110. It's going to net 100 for the 100th meat lock. Johnny Walker, I feel like, is the only fitting way to get meat lock 100. So if Dumpster Silva de Andrade and Thiago Meaty Moises ultimately fumbled the bag for us, it's for Johnny Walker at number 100, right?
100%. And Johnny Walker's going to come through. He's made the 100th meaty 100th slab of meat. It's just bound to be. Johnny Walker is coming full circle for the meaties, and he's going to secure the 100th meat lock.
Yeah, slap it for sure, and swap us over to the next slab, because this one should be interesting, Meat Boy. It's Sharamagomedov, was supposed to be fighting Joelton Luderbach. Now he's fighting Antonio Tricoli, and the Broccoli Man we know was supposed to be fighting last week. He was supposed to fight Ikram as the essential sacrificial lamb of sorts, and once they moved Ikram Lokram to this weekend's card, they didn't even give Trocoli a replacement fighter, so kind of tells you what his job was to do for last weekend. But nonetheless, when Joelton bailed to try to go get a fight in karate combat against GSP, that opened up an opportunity for Broccoli to step right in, and now he faces Sharamagomedov. And if you had the option, would you rather fight Ikram Lokram Alaskarov or Sharamagomedov? Gotta imagine that 10 out of 10 times you're taking Sharamagomedov. So Shara's minus 625, all the rage, 12-0 undefeated, and 1-0 in the UFC. But the Broccoli Man was supposed to be fighting last week. He's a massive dude and at around plus 500. Any chance that Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend, Antonio Tricoli, comes in here and spoils the Shara show?
Yeah, this is a crazy one. These odds are crazy. I see absolute beef tender value here because the Magomedov, he's had 3 opponents change, and he's been basically, he can't even train for these guys because he's training for first one, oh, gone. Second one pops for Peds or whatever he popped for, and then now he's got Broccoli Boy, aka Mackenzie Dern's year 1 boyfriend. Um, I gotta imagine 6'5" Giga Brazilian Chad absolutely smashes this Russian. This guy has no gas tank. He's smaller. There's a lot of unknown, and this guy's gonna go jiu-jitsu wrestling heavy. Magomedov is not really a grappler. He's a striker with a very sus gas tank. He's a wild man, so I could see him easily getting caught, taken down, smothered.
Yeah, good stuff. And many would see the Magomedov name and assume that this dude is a power, gnarly grappler, Dagestani type. But this guy's out there trying to strike, and of his 12 victories, 10 of them are by finish. And you touched on what you described as a sus gas tank. I mean, the only real frame of reference we have in the UFC, at least, was against Bruno Silva, and it did look kind of sketchy, right? When he was unable to finish Blindado, aka Handsome Squidward, early and often, he had to really kind of dig deep. He was able to get some YOLO takedowns, but that's against Bruno Silva, who has zero grappling, and Shara just had enough juice, just enough takedown skills to essentially escape in that contest. But against the homie Tricoli, what do you like about Tricoli's size and overall grappling ability compared to Blindado Silva's? Because Blindado still got unanimous decision lost against Shara, so why will this fight be different against the Broccoli man?
Yeah, Blindana Silva, he's not a heavy grappler. Now I'm basing this off of look at those odds. Those odds are absolute juicy. This is Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend of a year long. You think Mackenzie Dern would just stick around if the dude sucked? No, she's trying to have absolute legends. It's gonna build her brand. It's only like her dating this guy then becomes a loser. It's not gonna help her brand. So she's not gonna pick top cream of the crop unless this guy's the real deal. I think he should get it done. These odds are screaming hello. Put at least $1 on it. It's a no-brainer. And so I just really like this. The odds are very enticing, obviously, and I just don't think Magomedov is that good. I think he's wild. He's got great power. He puts on a crazy pace, but zero grappling, zero actual game plan except for be a nuthead. And anything can happen. Obviously, he can catch him, but I just gotta imagine Mackenzie Dern's boyfriend is gonna have a better game plan, maybe even be the stronger fighter, and a really dominant wrestler slash grappler.
Yeah, he should be stronger. He should be bigger for sure, obviously. And you wonder what Shara will offer him. But to me, I mean, I don't. I'm with you. I don't think Shara Magomedov is as good as a lot of people are saying he is. I don't know if he's even a future champ, especially unless he can well round his skill set. Because the guy is definitely one dimensional at this point. And at minus 625, there's seriously nothing there for Shara. But for me, boy's sake, I'm gonna take Magomedov. Call it reluctantly because I like where your head's at with Tricoli. I like the size. I like the partnership that he has and the motivation that that could offer for sure. But I don't know. I think that Shara will probably find a way to get this one done. And I just don't like the fact that we haven't seen the Broccoli Man since 2021, right? Like, this guy always has fights scheduled, yet somehow they never go through. And I think that the UFC, much like they were throwing the sacrificial lamb to Ikram, I think they're doing the same thing here to Shara, although I do think that it could backfire on them, and you might be cashing on the Tricoli plus 425 dog. But for my take, I'll take Shara. I'll go by finish. I'll say Tricoli gasses out and ultimately isn't this beast of a dude that we haven't really seen in years. But if you're all over the Broccoli Man, then that is impressive for sure. So I got Shara by finish. You got Broccoli by finish?
I got Broccoli by finish, third round, maybe second. And, I was always taught you got to eat your greens. So, I got to eat the greens with some beef this weekend. And I think this is one of those beefy green, dogs.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, at Meat Boy MMA, obviously, we're always talking about the meat, but it's always important to eat your broccoli as well. So I like where your head's at, Meat Boy. Swap us over, though, because Nicholas Dalby is a pretty interesting dog to me at plus 285 when he takes on our boy Renat Lakradinov. Is minus 360, 21-1-1, and 3-0-1 in the UFC. And if you remember, Meat Boy, last November, we meatlocked him against Alicio Zalewski dos Santos. That was a fight where Lakradinov was literally dominating for the first 10 minutes, then decided to just gas out and get 10-8'd by Alicio in that third. So it ended up being a meatlock draw. We were kind of stoked to even escape with that much because he definitely got dominated in that third round. But it was crazy because before that he was putting on an absolute clinic, really just going through whatever Alicio Zalewski dos Santos had to offer. And when he wasn't able to get that finish, though, it got a little bit sketchy. So in this fight against Nicholas Dalby, what are your thoughts? Because we haven't seen Dalby get finished by anyone in a long time. I mean, this dude has won 4 straight. Many of those fights were as a dog, and most recently it was fight of the night against your boy Gabriel Bonfim, where he weathered that early storm and got the second round finish himself. So he's technically only lost one of his last 12 fights, that is Dalby, and he's one of those dudes who was a former UFC fighter, didn't have a lot of success, and went to a different promotion, and then once coming back, really was able to find his groove in his late 30s. So at plus 285 in a spot where he's always fighting as a dog, and coupled with the fact that he's difficult to finish, and if Renat doesn't finish you early, then we've seen it get sketchy. Any life for Nicholas Dalby as a plus 285 dog, or is this the opponent that he needs for Renat to get back on track?
100%. There's definitely some life there. I do like this. It's a little juicy. Not as juicy as Broccoli Boy, but it is a little juicy because Renat's a very good fighter. But the fact that this fight isn't what Magomedov is, then it's like people have lost faith. A lot of people have lost faith in Renat's ability because of his last bout. It was a little sauce. And can he bounce back? Is he really the Renat we thought 2 years ago? Or is he maybe not as good as we all thought, but he's solid, you know? I don't know, but Nicholas Dalby's definitely leveled up. He's definitely a solid test for Renat. But I think Renat's the real deal. I think he's going to absolutely smoke Dalby. You know, Dalby is low-key peaking on a beautiful 4-fight win streak. This is juicy to throw on a parlay or a little dink. Seems like a no-brainer to be honest, because he is peaking. While Renat, you know, he just didn't look the best with that draw, I would say. So the longer this fight goes, the more scared I do get for Renat, I'll say. But I'm picking Renat.
Yeah, I buy that too, because Dalby's a guy who seemingly gets better as the fight gets longer. And again, if you don't finish him early, which has been proven difficult to do, then he's essentially going to turn the fight in his favor in those later stages. Perhaps we're putting too much into that recent Renat performance. I mean, that was about 7 months ago at this point, so gotta imagine that Renat has rectified the gas tank issues in that time in between, because it had to have been a great lesson learned for him, and the fact that he was able to emerge with the draw and not the L on his record, to me, suggests maybe he breathes a sigh of relief and recognizes, okay, I need to have a more complete toolkit so that if I'm unable to finish these guys in the first or second round, then I have to have that gas tank to lean back on. So I'm going to roll with that line of thinking in that Renat rectified those issues. Tapology is kind of singing a similar tune. 78% is rolling with Lakradinov. 22% is rolling with Dalby. But I do think, to your point, that, you know, $5 on Dalby and Broccoli, that could be an interesting parlay for sure, because both those dudes, in my opinion, do have some life, and the odds makers reflect a little bit less life than perhaps you and I are anticipating. But I like Renat in this one. I like him to get this one done. The thing that gives me the most confidence is that win over Brian Battle, right? It's easy to point back to Renat's most recent win against Kevin Lee in essentially the wrong weight class for Kevin Lee as not the most sexy victory, because most guys would probably beat Kevin Lee in that spot, but that unanimous decision over Brian Battle, who we respect a lot. We think Brian Battle might be a top 15 guy, and he really ran through him, and just, it wasn't the prettiest performance by Renat, but it was dominant start to finish, 15 minutes of smash for Lakradinov on Brian Battle. So if he's able to do that to Brian Battle, I think he can do it to Nicholas Dalby. So I'm going to go Renat. I'm going to go by finish. I think he gets back on the finishing wagon. Any chance this goes the distance and Renat emerges with the decision, or do you like the Renat finish as well?
You know, man, I do like Renat finish. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this goes decision, and it honestly might be a close fight. The longer it goes, the more sus it gets for Renat, but I think Renat will get it done. I don't know. Dalby's pretty tough. I don't know. Maybe Renat gets a finish. I'm gonna go with decision on this one though. A squeaky one.
Yeah, good stuff. And again, Dalby's no joke. So let us know down in the comments below if you're rolling with Renat Lakradinov or if Dalby as a dog is going to cash in this. So swap us over to the Meat Boy, because plenty of action left to go. Nazrat Hakparas, shout out to all the Hakparas Meat Boys. I'm pretty sure Hakparas was one of our first ever meat locks way back in the day. And he's taken on Jared Flash Gordon, who at plus 190 is coming in off a nice first round finish over Marco Madsen. He essentially retired Marco Madsen and got that TKO in the first round. And in the fight before that, if you remember, he was fighting against Bobby Green. They had the accidental clash of heads, and that was a no contest. And the fight before that was against Paddy Pimblett, where, yes, technically he lost the fight according to the judges. Everyone who watched that fight knows that Jared Gordon won that fight against Paddy. The record just doesn't reflect the fact. But Jared Gordon is another guy similar to Dalby who's really kind of been peaking throughout his later years, and I think that version we saw of Jared Gordon against Marco Madsen was the best we've seen to date. So I'm curious at plus 190 if he has some life against Nasrat Haqparast, who at minus 245 is 8-4 in the UFC, and to his credit is riding a nice 3-fight win streak. And Nasrat, we know, was a guy with all sorts of hype maybe about 5 years ago, and then he dropped some losses. Drew Dober finished him. Dan Hooker, Bobby Green both smoked him light work start to finish, and I think some people sort of jumped off the Nasrat hype train, but the 3 straight wins since then has been nice, and most recently he too got a finish over Jamie Mullarkey in a performance night finish in the first round just back in December. So what are your thoughts on this one in front of the Saudi crowd? Do you think Flash Gordon shows up and as a near 2-1 underdog smokes Nasrat Haqparast, or is Nasrat Haqparast coming to get his 4th straight victory?
You know, honestly, a lot of these dogs I'm kind of liking because I could see Jared Gordon absolutely cash in this one. Uh, I mean, Jared just beat an Olympian. I don't know if Nasrat be able to take him. But yeah, this is gonna be a close fight. Nasrat should win, but I'm leaning Jared. I don't know why, but I'm just leaning him. He's a very solid test. I don't know if Nasrat has really fought that level. You know, Jamie Mullarkey, that's a pretty good one, I will say. But he did lose to Dan Hooker, and I tend to feel like Jared Gordon would smoke Dan Hooker. I don't know why, but that's just me. But I think I'm gonna go Jared Gordon. I'm gonna keep riding with these dogs. These dogs are cash, and this is dog cash Saturday.
It could be Dog Cash Saturday for sure. I don't know if Jared Gordon beats Dan Hooker, but that could be a breakdown for another week for sure. And in this one against Nasrat Meatboy, Tapology is pretty bullish on Nasrat Haqparast. 84% is rolling with him. It's basically all beige for the decision, and 16% is rolling with Flash Gordon, and it's basically all beige as well. I'm kind of with Tapology in the sense that I think this fight for sure goes the distance. Neither of these guys, despite coming in off recent finishes, are proven to be finishers, I guess you can say. So I think this fight does go over 2.5. I think it does go the distance. But if you're taking Flash Gordon, where do you see him having the advantages against Nasrat? Because Nasrat's 28, trains at TriStar with GSP, Barasa Hobby, all the killers in that gym, and Jared Gordon's 35, training with the guys at Killcliff FC, which you love to see because obviously those dudes are tough as nails. But skill for skill, where do you anticipate Flash having the advantages?
Yeah, Flash, honestly, I think he's gonna have the advantage on the feet. You know, I think he's gonna be able to hold his ground. I think he's gonna be better than what people are giving to him. That's why he's also a 2-1 dog. But I think he's a lot better than what people give him. And he plays his game very slow. He slows it all down. He punches very slow, but somehow hits you. Then he takes you down and then slowly works it. I could see Jared Gordon just kind of controlling the pace of this match, and it's either that or he gets snuffed in 2 seconds. Like that's kind of how I see it. But the longer this goes, I gotta lean Jared. I do like this. I think he'll win by a slimy basic decision.
A slimy basic decision for Jared Gordon. I could see that for sure. And you mentioned unless he gets slept early. I mean, the only time we've really seen him get that slept that early and often was against Charles Oliveira, essentially the first punch of the fight. But Nasrat, he's got the nice speed, he has the nice kicks, but doesn't really have that one punch power that Dubronx obviously has. So I actually think this fight goes the distance, Meat Boy. And here's how I anticipate it going down. It's going to be 3 very close rounds. I bet it's going to be even closer than what Jared Gordon versus Paddy Pimblett looked like. And once the judge's verdict is being read, I think we're going to get a Nasrat either a questionable unanimous or a Nasrat split decision. So Jared Gordon to me is always just fighting in close fights, and I see that playing against him this one against Nasrat. I don't see him going out there and finishing Nasrat, and as a result, I don't see him having a pathway because I think the rounds could be close. I think perhaps if we're chilling in the apex, then maybe the judges lean Jared Gordon, but all context considered, I'm going Nasrat by close decision in a fight that Jared probably won, but the record's going to give him another loss. Any last thoughts on that one, or are you ready to switch this over?
Yeah, no, it's been a good bout. Throw in the comments who you taking and why.
Yeah, move us through. D-Rod is next, Meat Boy, 3 to go, and D-Rod versus Kelvin Gastelum in this one. Daniel Rodriguez, we were talking earlier, this is a guy who had so much hype at one point when he got that beautiful finish. The dude was seriously peaking, and now he's lost 2 of 3 and got finished in both. So to me, it makes sense why he's a plus 195 dog, but he still does have a nice, formidable 7-3 UFC record, and he's coming into this one against Kelvin, who has only won 4 of his last 12 fights, and he's only won 1 of his last 4, but the odds makers seem to suggest at minus 238 that this is the rebound opponent in D-Rod that Kelvin needs to maybe go on one final run, but we were encouraged, or at least I was, when he got that close fight of the night victory over Chris Curtis last year, but after that he ran into Sean Brady, got smoked, the fight wasn't even close, and it was just a little bit concerning for his return to welterweight for me, especially coming off that nice win against Chris Curtis. So in this one, do you like any life for D-Rod? I mean, D-Rod's been getting finished, but Kelvin hasn't really finished many guys in the last couple of years. So is there a pathway for D-Rod to maybe eke out a decision or perhaps get a finish of his own against Kelvin?
Man, I don't know. Kelvin looked pretty good last bout. Like he just looks like he's Kelvin. He's sharp. He's fast. Win, lose, he's back. And I think D-Rod had peaked a while ago. He's been on a slow downtrend, actually a quick downtrend, and I think D-Rod's next thing is BKFC. To be honest, that's kind of where it seems like he might belong. I just don't see how D-Rod could submit Kelvin. There's 0 grappling, so Kelvin doesn't need to worry about no Sean Brady vibe. Yeah, I don't know. I think this would be pretty dominant by Kelvin. Maybe even a KO, first or second round.
You mentioned Kelvin looking pretty good recently, and the last time we saw him was that loss against Sean Brady. So I know you're obviously always high on Sean Brady. We have a lot of respect for those Philly guys, but what were you impressed with in that Kelvin fight? Like, did you think that Kelvin really looked good against Sean Brady?
Kelvin, the last few fights where, since he's kind of made his comeback and he's dropped down in weight, he looks sharper, he looks faster, the confidence is there. He was still in it, went to the 3rd round, got subbed. I mean, if it was washed up, Kelvin Gastelum, Cheeto Boy at 185. I think Kelvin 185 would have been submitted in the first round. But he's got Milkman beat. That's a pretty good win. I just don't think D-Rod is Milkman, Chris Curtis's level, or even Ian Heinisch, and I think Kelvin's gonna smoke him pretty bad.
Yeah, it's different weight classes, so tough to know. And, D-Rod at 85 kind of sounds interesting to me, but BKFC definitely seems most interesting because I can see D-Rod having a lot of success out in BKFC. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a fight between Mike Perry and D-Rod? And after Mike Perry loses to Jake Paul in a couple weeks, perhaps the return BKFC opponent in D-Rod makes them. So I kind of like where your head's at, Meat Boy. Tapology says Gastelum is going to win. 80% is rolling with him. Basically all beige on both sides, and I don't love Gastelum at minus 238. I mean, you never love to see Gastelum with those kind of odds, but for Meat Boy's sake, I'll roll with you. Reluctantly, I'll take Kelvin, but I do see a world where D-Rod emerges in this one. I can't tell you how this fight's going to go down because I feel like Kelvin Gastelum is just one of the more difficult fighters in the promotion to predict because he's at his top, when he's peaking, the dude looks amazing, but when he looks bad, he looks really bad, and you never really know what version you're going to get. It's always tough to glean. So both these guys traveling to Saudi for this one. I'll take Kelvin by snooze fest of a decision, but I do think that D-Rod has a little bit of life. Are you taking Kelvin by finish, or do you agree with the decision?
I'm going to go Kelvin by KO.
Kelvin KO would be turning back the clock for sure, but hey, you never know, and the odds will definitely be juicy. So check him out for sure. Mead has Kelvin KO. I have Kelvin decision. Are you a D-Rod backer? Let us know below. Swaps over, Meat Boy, 2 to go. It's the co-meet, and Sergey Pavlovich, similar to Gastelum, is a minus 238-ish favorite in this one against Alexander Volkov, who plus 195, 37-10 overall, and Volkov's been looking better and better. I mean, he's won 3 straight fights, all of them by finish, and over pretty tough guys, right? Tuivasa got smoked, easy light work. Alexander Romanov, he essentially made look like an amateur, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik got absolutely smoked in 132 seconds. So it's been great stuff for Alexander Volkov, the tallest fighter in the UFC, and he's taking on Pavlovich, who is the king of the ape index in the UFC. Taking on the tallest guy, 18-2 is Sergey, but the last time we saw him, he got his interim championship opportunity, and you and I were all over it. We thought that Tom Aspinall would be Tom Loxmanall, and indeed he was, because he smoked Sergey Pavlovich early and often in just over a minute. But stuff that Sergey was doing before then was impressive, and enough for a lot of people to pick Sergey in that fight against Tom, which we thought was crazy and proven to be accurate. But Sergey had been doing some nice stuff, had been getting a lot of finishes, picking up performance of the night as well in a lot of those contests. Is Volkov the right opponent for him to get back on track and revisit those championship ambitions, or is now the time where people need to stop ignoring Volkov and he's going to take out Pavlovich? Who are you taking?
Man, this is definitely a tough one. I kind of like, Volkov, but man, Pavlovich is no joke. These are battle of who's the scarier Russian. Um, I don't know why. I'm just feeling like a dog this weekend, and I gotta go with Volkov. I think Volkov's gonna get the upset. He's gonna keep those long reach, long arms, just keep working it, and I think he's gonna win a gritty decision.
Yeah, he could win a gritty decision. And do you see any potential for him picking up a finish? Because Volkov, I mean, the last 5 years has turned into this finishing machine. His only decision was against Greg Hardy, and I guess he did decision our boy T. Burrow, but he's been picking up a lot of finishes in that span. So you like this as a fight where Volkov returns to his decision ways, and if so, how do you anticipate this fight going? Because Volkov is a monster, 6'7", yet Sergey with the ape index statistics somehow has the reach advantage. So do you see Sergey wanting to keep this fight on the feet and they're going strike for strike, or do you see Volkov using some of his grappling, which he's been using in some of these recent fights? Like, stylistically, how does this fight play out?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy since Pavlovich has been in the UFC. He's never gone to decision. So I don't know. This might be the first one because I don't know if Volkov has what it takes to put out big boy like that. But I don't know. We've never seen Pavlovich pass the first round, so maybe he gasses second, third, and then Volkov gets a second or third TKO because Pavy boy quits because he ran out of energy. Will be very interesting. This is a fun fight. I mean, Volkov obviously could get knocked out. Pavlovich has never been past the first round of the UFC. It's crazy to say, but I think it is going to be the first time he goes past the first round of the UFC.
Yeah, good stuff there, because I'm curious too to see what he looks like in the second, in the third round. And we haven't really seen Drago as a guy who gets finished early, at least not in the UFC. I mean, the last time he got KO'd in the UFC was that YOLO literal last second punch via Derek Lewis, and that was in like the last 30 seconds of the third round. So Volkov did get finished a couple times in Bellator early. I think Vitaly Minikov got a finish over him in the first round, and then Maxim Grishin picked up a YOLO sub in that first round in M1 Global. UFC specific, Drago rarely gets finished early, so I'm kind of with you, meat boy. I see Volkov being able to survive those first 5 minutes, and it's tough for me to anticipate Volkov not having serious advantages in round two and in round three, just because we haven't seen Sergey there yet. Whereas Volkov, we've seen go 5 rounds. I mean, this dude gets better as fights go on. I'm going to roll with your line of thinking. I'm going to say Drago survives those dangerous early 5 minutes, and as a result, maybe even picks up a second or third round finish of his own, or gets a decision as a dog in this one against the Ape Index fighter. So, are we tripping? Are we missing Pavlovich? I mean, are we just riding the hype from Tom Loxmanall and we're neglecting all Sergey's hype, or is Volkov going to catch this juicy dog?
I think Volkov's going to cash as a juicy dog, but we'll find out, I guess. This could be an absolute mauling of Pavlovich with his big old lunchbox hands, but I think Volkov is a big enough veteran. He's seen it all. He's fought the best. He's fought the worst. I think this is one of those big level sets, and I think he's going to show, hey, you're not ready for the big leagues, buddy.
Yeah, he's got those big looter box, lunchbox hands for sure, and Tapology thinks he's going to get it done. 84% is rolling with Sergey, so Meat Boys are fading Tapology Timmy's, and we're taking Volkov in this. Let us know in the comments if we're tripping, and Pavlovich with the Ape Index gets this one done light work. But nonetheless, Meat Boy, you ready for the meat event? You there, Meat Boy?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You ready for the meat
Yep.
event, Meat Boy?
Yeah.
All right, dope. Swap us over then. Frozen Soul. Robert Whitaker is -155 and is 25-7, taking on our boy Ikram Aliskerov. You may know him as Ikram Lokram, and as a +130 dog. We kind of already touched on the lore, right? He was supposed to fight last week. He was fed the tomato can Tricoli, and that fight fell through. Hamzat gets ill. We wish him the best, obviously, and Dana and the boys obviously knew to call Ikram Lokram. Ikram Lokram is a guy who's 15-1. He's only been getting easy light work, performance of the night finishes in his short but dominant UFC run so far. And you analyze that one, when you dissect, do some deep diving. Who beat Ikram Lokram? It was Hamzat. So made perfect sense to bail on Tomato Can Sam and just stick him in this one against Robert Whitaker. And shout out to Robert Whitaker. I mean, taking Ikram Lokram on 5 days notice is no small feat and isn't something that a lot of guys would do. So he welcomes any and all challengers, and Robert Whitaker obviously is a legend. He's the former champ. He is coming off a recent nice win over Paulo Costa, but he did get finished by DDP, and he did lose to Izzy Adesanya. He also picked up that win against Marvin Vettori. So technically up and down, at least by the win-loss metrics are concerned for Whitaker, and he's taking on Aliskerov, who is an absolute beast and is a fighter we've never seen as a dog before. So in this meat event slot, is this going to be a little bit too much for Ikram Lokram, or is the Reaper about to get his soul taken?
Yeah, this is a crazy one because it went, from one killer to another, and Bobby Knuckles definitely has, his night. It's gonna be a crazy night, that's for sure. This guy's no joke, but we're talking about the Reaper, Bobby Knuckles. I mean, come on, this guy's the GOAT. Sure, he did have a little hiccup recently versus, Duplessis, which made no sense how he lost that, but somehow he got knocked out. I don't think it's going to happen again. I think he's levels above Ikram. I'm very surprised to see how close these odds are, to be honest. I thought it'd be a lot bigger. We just haven't seen much of Ikram. But, if Ikram pulls through, like, I'm not sold yet, but if he beats Robert Whitaker, I am sold that he is definitely going to be same level as Hamza, if not better. This is a crazy fight, crazy opportunity for Ikram. Short notice, fun fight. Can't wait to see this.
Yeah, crazy opportunity, short notice. I also can't wait because I thought that it was an easy light work victory for Ikram last week, and this fight is obviously way different, but a way sicker opportunity for Aliskerov than just picking up a finish over Tomato Can Tricoli. Tapology, those right there with you, boys. 73% is rolling with the Reaper, 27% is rolling with Ikram Lokram, and of the 73% backers for Whitaker, majority is decision, and that makes sense. I mean, Whitaker is a guy who does win a lot of decisions, but Aliskerov we've never seen go 5 rounds. You wonder what it's going to look like in those later stages. So I wonder if Whitaker by round 3, round 4, round 5 finish maybe has a little bit of life. But if you're taking the Reaper, do you too anticipate this fight going 25 minutes, or any chance the Reaper finishes Ikram Lokram?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I don't know. Robert is a master class. I could see him get a KO, TKO. But if I had to say, the longer the fight goes, the better it is for Robert. If Robert does get a KO, it's going to be, near the end of the fight, not in the beginning, in my opinion. But most likely outcome, I would have to guess, is a decision by Bobby Knuckles.
Yeah, and that would make the most sense in the sense that basically the last 10 wins in the UFC for Whitaker have all been by decision. I guess I'm curious to see what Ikram looks like in those later. This is a dude who hasn't even seen a second round in the UFC, and he's already 3-0. I'm very curious in this one. Last one for me, Meat Boy. Are there any preparation differences between Ikram Lokram and Hamzat, or stylistically, do you think that Robert Whitaker may be welcome to this challenge because Ikram fights somewhat similarly to Hamzat? Like, do you think that this fight plays out any different than how Hamzat versus Whitaker might have looked like?
Yeah, I think it definitely does because Ikram is definitely a little bit smaller of a guy. I would say is nowhere near as aggressive as Hamzat. He's pretty aggressive, but like I feel like Hamzat is just like a different animal. I mean, he like submitted Kevin Holland in 5 seconds, like just sped run through that fight. And I could see Hamzat going in, putting an insane pace, and like trying to finish the fight first 5 seconds. I think Ikram's gonna feel it out, see how this level is, and then pick apart him if he can win this fight.
Yeah, this one should be fun. I see it going many different ways, but I think I'm actually going to ride the hype beast in this one. I haven't been let down yet by Ikram Lakram. I think that this is the opportunity that he needs to insert him and honestly maybe even take the spot of Hamzat's hype because Hamzat the last couple of years, we're not getting what we were essentially given at Fight Island 4 years ago, and who better to take the hype than the guy that gave you your only career loss? So I'm taking Ikram Lakram. I like him under 2.5 meat boy. I think that Ikram, similar to how deep he did it against the Reaper, I think he's going to get a finish over Robert Whitaker, and I think it might even be a brutal KO. So I'm going Ikram under 2.5, brutal KO over the Reaper. If this fight goes longer than that, then I'm with you in the sense I do see Robert obviously having many, many pathways the later this fight goes. Robert's a guy who can fight, similar to like Sean Strickland. He can just seemingly fight 1,000 rounds if he needed to. So if Ikram doesn't get it done early, this might get ugly. But I think he gets it done early. Meat boy, am I tripping?
No, not. I mean, maybe a little tripping on the getting done early, but I don't know. Duplessis got it done pretty early. Anything's possible. If this guy's the real deal, he probably could get it done. I'm not sold yet, but if he beats Bobby Knuckles, especially early and often, I don't even know. It almost seems inevitable that he will be future champ because that is crazy if he does good versus Bobby Knuckles. It's a big levels test, big opportunity, but pumped to see it. It's a fun fight, a wild fight. Cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm pumped too, and I'm glad that they got a worthy replacement for Hamzat because this could have been very difficult to fill. And the fact that stars aligned, Ikram fighting the weekend before and fighting now this weekend, it all worked out, and it's probably going to be a phenomenal show. So he's got Whitaker, the OG. I got the hype beast, Ikram Lakram. We went 2-2 last week, Meatball. We broke down five. There ended up being only 4 videos, but of the 7 this week, are you going 5-2, 7-0, 2-5? What do you think the record is after UFC Saudi?
I think after this, I think it's a dog lock weekend, and honestly, I think I'm batting 1,000. I don't think any of these are missing.
It could be the dog lock weekend. He says he's going 7-0. I'm going to say 5 and keep it simple, but nonetheless, all I know is the 100th meat lock. Johnny Walker as a pick has to come through, and full circle Johnny Walker for sure. Any last thoughts on UFC Saudi, or are you ready to wrap this up? And then it's on to a UFC 303 next week?
Yeah, no, another absolute banger next weekend. Thank gosh we are done with UFC trash, and now we're looking for cash this weekend and next. So smash subscribe, throw in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.